what ended up happening in this book, I was like, there's no fucking way. I don't like it. I don't like that that happened. Hi friends, it's me again. Welcome to February's reading wrap up. If I can even call it a reading wrap up, because this month, I don't know what was in the air. I don't know if Mercury is in retrograde or whatever the fuck that means. Everyone was in like this weird slump. Everyone. So this month wasn't the best. I actually struggled reading a lot. And to make matters worse, the 2 novellas that I read this month are in the process of being canceled because the author is being accused of plagiarism. So fun. Just gonna dive right in. I didn't even bring the physical copies of the books that I read this month because that's how over February I am. So the first book I read was Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. I believe this is her debut novel. She is a Black author, and this book was so phenomenal. It actually got me out of my slump that I had during the beginning of the month because I tried with 2 other books and it just wasn't working. So I stumbled across this on Kindle Unlimited and I loved it. It is about Sloan and Dom. Sloan's husband died about 4 years ago, and now Sloan has to work with Dom, who was her husband's best friend. They all went to college together, but Sloan and Dom never got along. So as they're working together, Sloan and Dom end up forming a relationship, and it's kind of taboo, kind of forbidden, because Dom is her husband's best friend. So it's like, it shouldn't be a thing, but it is. It was also really cute because you get to see how much Sloan and Dom were really integrated into Sloan's husband's family. There's a big family aspect, and the love between Sloan and Dom is just so pure, so cute. And you're also following along with Sloan's grief as well. Dom is the first guy that she's been with since her husband died, and it's a big deal because he's dead and she's with his best friend. There's some secrecy along with that, and they really don't want anyone to know, but of course, you know how these books go. The drama's there. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It did feel like it was dragging on during some parts, and I really noticed that this month because I've been in a slump. The fact that it dragged in some parts wasn't the biggest deal, but I also felt that it was kind of very insta-lovey, insta-lusty, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. Like, I do like to see some stuff develop before, oh, someone almost hit my car. Great. So that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5. I felt that in some parts it was very insta-love and insta-lusty, and then in other parts it dragged. Okay, so the next book I read was Terms and Conditions by the love of my life, Lauren Asher. Y'all know how much I loved the fine print. I read it in October. Y'all, I love this book so much. I want a second book. Oh, speaking of that, there's gonna be more books in the Dreamland Billionaire series. Terms and Conditions came out this month, and it was one of my most highly anticipated books this year. It did not disappoint at all. Like, I have not stopped thinking about this book. I was actually blessed enough to get the ARC, so the way I devoured it and kept going back to devour it, like, I've read this book 2 or 3 times this month because I cannot get Declan and Iris out of my head. It's so good. So the plot of Declan's book was kind of set up in the fine print, how Rowan had to become the director of Dreamland and present a proposal and all that stuff. For Declan, in order to get his share of the company, he had to find a wife and have a baby. Now, even when I read that in the fine print, I was very nervous because when you put the pregnancy trope into a book, I'm usually like, got a blast. But in this one, the pregnancy trope was not apparent, which I really liked. So you have Declan, who is the oldest Kane brother, and you have his assistant Iris, who has been trying to set him up with all of these potential fake wives so he can get his inheritance, and it's just not working out for him because he's a grumpy asshole and he's scaring everyone away. In Declan's time of need, Iris decides to offer herself up to become his fake wife. She is so caring and just so thoughtful, and she wants him to succeed. So in order for him to achieve that, she's like, screw it, I'm gonna be the one to do it because he needs to do this, you know? So even as his assistant, like, I loved how much Declan and Iris cared about each other in the most platonic way. So they end up getting married. It's a very fake marriage kind of trope, and the banter's there, the drama's there, the tension, the angst, age gap. It was so beautifully written. I'm not even gonna talk about the fact that Iris is a Black woman, and that meant every single thing to me. Fan art is beautiful. Lauren Asher put her foot into this book. I literally have not stopped thinking about it. It's definitely infinity stars. Rowan was my favorite Kane, and then I got to Declan's book and I was like, oh my god, is Declan gonna be my favorite? No. I'm calling it right now. The 3rd book of the Dreamland Billionaire series will be my favorite because Callahan Kane, he had a couple cameos in Terms and Conditions, and I fell completely in love with him. I'm already obsessed, and the book probably will not be out until the end of this year or next year, who knows, but I need it now. This is definitely my favorite book I read this month. It was everything Lauren Asher does not miss. If you have not read the Dreamland Billionaire series, please go pick it up. It's one of my favorite things in the entire world. Next up, I picked up the last 2 books in the Brutal Birthright series. Broken Vow follows Raylan and Rihanna. Rihanna gets into a kind of situation like someone is trying to kill her. So in order to protect herself, Raylan comes in to be her bodyguard. And he's a very like sunshine southern boy, so hot. It is Raylan's duty to protect her, but someone keeps trying to unalive her. So Raylan decides to take her to his hometown of Tennessee. Country, small town kind of vibe, which is becoming one of my favorite things ever. This book is kind of reverse Grumpy Sunshine. Like Rihanna is very stoic and strict and kind of cold-hearted, and Raylan is not like that. So taking this city girl to his hometown of Tennessee was a big change for her. I ended up rating Broken Vow a 4.5. Raylan is hot, and he's definitely in my top 3 of the Brutal Birthright men. He's up there for me. Dante will always be my number 1 though. So then I picked up Heavy Crown, which was the last book in the Brutal Birthright series. So devastated to finish it. I've been waiting for Seb's book because I just feel like it wrapped up everything nicely, because in the first book, he had a knee injury because of the mafia stuff that was going on. And in this book, like, it just tied everything together of like, how is he doing now? Because he was a college athlete and he didn't want to be a part of the mafia business, but he was kind of forced to. All of his siblings have fallen in love and like moved away and had their kids or whatever. So he's kind of the only one left in the mafia business that has to like still take care of things, but he doesn't really want to, you know? Hence the title Heavy Crown. Like, he does not want this position, but also there's no one to fill it. So the book starts with him like struggling with that. And then he ends up meeting Yelena, who is the daughter of a Russian mafia boss, I believe. One night as Seb is walking home, he sees that someone is trying to abduct Elena. So he ends up saving her and they end up hanging out. Then it turns out that Yelena's dad is actually trying to conspire against the gallows. So all of this is a setup. Her getting attacked and meeting Seb, like, all of this is so her dad can get back at the gallows for something that they did to his family in the past. So she has to keep this secret away from Seb, and you're like trying to figure out when it's gonna blow up, because you know it is. And the way that it blew up, what ended up happening in this book, I was like, there's no fucking way. Why did this happen? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like that that happened. I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 because I really wasn't as invested until the 50% mark, because that's when stuff really started happening. But the last 50% of the book was so freaking good. Like, it felt like I was watching a movie. And I feel like it set up everything well for Kingmakers, which is the spinoff series of the Brutal Birthright series. So I cannot wait to get to that, because I heard it is 10 times better and 10 times like more insane than Brutal Birthright. But Kingmakers is about their kids, and apparently they're even more psychotic. I can't wait. I can't wait. Next, I ended up also finishing the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. We're not surprised. I picked up Wrecked, which is about Jax and Elena. Jax is struggling with his anxiety, so he abuses alcohol and prescription drugs a lot. Elena comes in to be their PR rep. She was introduced in Collided, which was the second book, so I was excited to see her back and to see her paired with Jax. Elena is there to try to like clean up his rep and like get his head back on straight, so she has to live with him and literally like follow him around everywhere. So it's very close proximity. Both Jax and Elena have just been through so much. This book broke me because something happens and it hurt. It fucking hurt. And it was definitely my favorite from the series at that point. I ended up giving it a 5-star. But then I picked up Redeemed, which is about Santi and Chloe. Lauren Asher really chose violence with the last 2 books in the Dirty Air series because they were both heartbreaking. I don't really want to say what happened in Santi's book because I feel like it'll be a spoiler. I literally cried during the prologue. Something happens with Santi's racing career and it just puts him on a spiral. He's in a very bad mood. He turns into this really grumpy asshole, and then he ends up meeting Chloe because she is trying to find her biological father. Her biological father just happens to end up living next door to Santi, so that's how they end up meeting. And then it turns into fake dating. Redeemed is 100% my favorite book in the Dirty Air series. I loved every single thing about this book, and I believe it's my favorite one because I feel like there was a lot more plot to follow. It definitely broke my heart to finish the series because I ended up liking each book better than the last. So when I got to Redeemed, I'm like, oh my god, it can only get better. And then I put the book on my shelf and realized that there wasn't a book afterwards. So I finally finished the Dirty Air series. It was good. Definitely pick it up. Definitely recommend. Actually, at this point, I recommend anything written by Lauren Asher because she is my child. I will protect her at all costs. And then the last book that I ended up reading, that I'm still reading right now because it's taking me a little longer to read it because it's written in third person. I'm just going to include this book in my reading wrap up because I'm pretty sure I will finish it tonight. I am reading A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings. I believe it's her debut novel. We have Harper and Dan. They are in dental school. Harper takes her education in like dentistry very seriously because I believe she wants to be like an oral surgeon. I think I could be so wrong. But one day she literally runs into Dan and she ends up like breaking the denture mold that he was working on or something. So she ends up helping him out because she's like this oral genius. I don't like how that sounds. That's also why I love this book because like there are so many like fun punny moments in here where you're like, oh, that's an innuendo. There are a lot of jokes about oral performance. Dan is a first year and Harper is a fourth year, but they are the same age. I thought it was going to be age gap. It's not. Dan just started late. Dan sucks at being a dentist. Like he's not really good. So Harper is trying her best to like help him out. And obviously there's some chemistry going there or whatever. I made it to about the 60% mark in the book. Obviously I can't rate it yet because I'm not done. Right now though, it's giving me like 3.5, 5. This book also deals a lot with anxiety, which I really do appreciate. And I think it's well done in the book so far with like how it's represented in Harper. This book does come out March 1st. The rom-com vibes are there. It's really funny. Dan and Harper are just really cute, really soft. Dan is definitely a cinnamon roll male character, so I'm really appreciating that after reading about mafia men all month, you know? So that was my February. It was very slow, very short, but I am proud of myself because I ended up finishing 2 series that I started way back in November, and that was a big goal of mine in February. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you had a better February than I did, which sucks because it is Black History Month, so the fact that I was in a reading slump all month just feels anti-Black. As usual, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.